Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, aka BGFH, and I am back for another hardware review video. And this time we are looking at the Apple Watch Series 4. Originally, I hadn't planned on getting it, but then I was hearing some things through some coworkers. I got to see one or two from a coworker, and found out that Apple was doing some trade-in values, and so I thought, can't hurt to see, just out of curiosity, because there were some benefits that I was potentially interested in this particular watch upgrade. And before we go any further, just letting you know, this looks different or sounds different than usual, this is my first true video shooting on my iPhone XS Max. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this is going to look and sound, because this actually does support stereo audio now as well. So there is that. But anyway, so yeah, I did not get the Series 4 on launch. I waited, trying to remember when I got this thing. I've probably had it for a good 3 weeks or better. Maybe mid-October or so, right around mid-October. So I went down to the Apple store, and my local Apple store, and I brought with, not knowing what I would need, I brought with my Series 3, and I had my box, I had my original sport band, I had everything all nice and pristine. And it turns out when you turn it into the Apple Store, they don't really even require anything but the Apple Watch. So as long as it works, you can keep the box, you can keep the band, you can even keep the little USB charger cable. So it's nice. Now I have one sitting at work and one at home, because I have the new charger that works on both watches. So yeah, now I have two chargers, which is great. So the watch itself comes in a 40 or 44 millimeter. I, of course, have the bigger one. I'm interested in the larger screen. And one thing I immediately notice is this watch is actually thinner than the Series 3. I think it goes a little bit easier on the wrist, and it feels different on the wrist. Like, you kind of don't notice it quite as much as you would maybe the Series 3. Now, of course, the big difference is the screen. They've taken that 44 millimeter and they've brought the image pretty much directly to the edge. So I'm going to tap my watch here. There's my, and we'll have a little bit more to show later, but that's just the large print, nice little blue watch face that I have. There's your pin. And if you're looking, like, you see the numbers, even, you have a lot more room to even enter your passcode. So I can do that as a low vision user without even having VoiceOver on. I can do that a fair bit easier. I still can't read most of what the watch, like if I'm trying to read text. Some of the larger stuff I can, but I primarily use VoiceOver for reading any notifications or things like that. But where it really helps is kind of being able to see little pictures or icons or things like that. And I have copied a few pictures over to my watch, and just being able to see how, pretty good they look on this tiny little screen is nice. So again, it is a thinner device. I got the aluminum model. I did not get the stainless steel. You see on the bottom here, they've changed it a little bit. You got the sensors and everything, but it actually has more of it has a ceramic bottom, where the older one, I think it had some other, I forget what the material of the Series 3 ones were, especially like the entry level, the aluminum models. You have your power button, which is actually not really it doesn't stick out at all, but you can kind of feel it there on the right-hand side. And then you have your crown, which thankfully does not have that goofy little red, it's not that red, obvious-looking knob, that the Series 3 had. So it just blends in better with the device, which I like. And I do have the cellular model, I should say. And I'm using it with Verizon. So, yeah. I'll get to a little bit more on that shortly. But they also, in the digital crown here, what they've done is when you're using it, you have haptic feedback now. So if you're arrowing, or if you're kind of, using your crown to kind of spin through menus and things, you actually feel some of the feedback. And that can actually be really helpful just in general, or especially maybe if you can't hear it as well, you can kind of get a little more tactile feedback on stuff. Now they've also moved the speaker over to this side on the left here. So it's basically, it's definitely louder, and I think it's clearer too. The audio is clearer. I remember the first time I tried to use Siri on this thing, good Lord. I had voiceover on, and it was, decently loud. But I don't remember. I asked Siri something just to test it. And it was like, yeah, the weather today is pretty good. It was just like super loud. I'm like, okay, I got to definitely go in the settings and turn Siri down a little bit. So, yeah, it was a little bit funny. So I got that ironed out. When I did get the watch, I had no trouble doing just basically unpair. You have to unpair your old watch from your phone, deactivate it, and then you activate and pair the new one. For the most part, I didn't have any trouble with it. And even the apps and stuff, I could restore from the iCloud backup. Boom, I got it right, and everything worked fine.
Viewfinder, focus on.
Problem is, when I did this at the Apple Store, it would not activate through my Verizon phone. Like the cellular part would not activate. Everything else worked beautifully. And the problem ended up being, there was some instance where you would go through most of the activation. You say, okay, is this the mode? You want to replace an existing watch? Sure. That was good. Choose it. And then you would verify your information, your password and everything for the Verizon app. It would kind of pop up something. Then it would ask you for your emergency contact information, for 911. And I tried so many variations. I don't have a problem with my address in any other way. But every time I would try to enter my address, it would just be like, nope, we don't recognize that address, and it wouldn't give you any options, and then you'd have to revert back, and then it would just kick you out, and it just would not let me go. I would just have to keep starting from scratch, and I would get to that point, and it wouldn't work. What I ended up finally having to do is I ended up having to go home, call Verizon, and I ended up having to talk to 2 or 3 people, I think. Finally, I had a guy, I had to go on my watch app and give them some of the hardware identification numbers, and then they were basically able to activate it on their end. And then we kind of, I don't remember how it worked, but we had to clear out my address or something. And then when I manually added it, it accepted it, and then it just went through. And ever since then, it's actually worked fine. The other funny thing is, like I said, I've mentioned before that the cellular reception in my apartment sucks bad. And so I wasn't really able to test my watch until I really went to work the following week, because I think I got it on a Thursday. And I don't remember if I had that Friday off or I took it off for some reason or whatever. But yeah, when I went in, I turned my, all my Bluetooth and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and everything. I turned it off. The Verizon thing lit up green, and it was good to go. And it works. So yay. So just for I just wanted to tell you about that hardware kind of setup issue because some of you may also encounter that. If you ever have like a weird verification thing, you may end up having to work through your carrier to get that verified or to get it to work. I have no idea why it hated my address, but there you go. So back to the watch itself. I got the sport band, immediately took it off. I'm using the cheapo, what was it, $8-10 Milanese loop that I got on Amazon. Love this thing. One thing I commented on the original video, and I feel like a complete moron because let me show you here. So you have this little clasp here. See that little silver part? And it's going to be hard to do this one-handed. Yeah, come here, buddy. You see on this side, it's got this little rough, kind of a square, rectangular thing that sticks out around the edges there. Turns out that is the magnet. And remember when I reviewed when I was talking about the watch and how it would slip off sometimes and it just wouldn't stay still? Yeah, because I was dumb and I had it basically backwards because I thought that was supposed to be a decorative thing, and I thought that was supposed to be on the outside, like where this part here is. Turns out I flipped the watch around, and the magnet sticks much better to the actual watch band, and now it works beautifully. I can play Beat Saber, or I can do any other, I can run, or I can play a VR game and, play drums, and it'll be fine. I don't have to worry about it at all. So that was just me being stupid for like, I'm ashamed to say, probably 5-6 months until I realized that. But let's actually dive into the watch just a little bit here. Won't be able to show you too much, but I want to show you mainly the speed and the screen. So I'm going to move my phone away. Okay, we got our watch. There is your watch face. There is your dock, all your settings and stuff. And this part even, it just looks so clear. Like the screen has been upgraded. It's more clear. These little buttons here for all your toggles are they stand out so well. And again, I mention it all the time, but the watch app and the watch, I want this dark look to come to iOS real bad because I love the way it looks, especially on OLED like this. This is an OLED screen. So you've got that. Hit your side button. You got your app list. And again, look at how, I don't have VoiceOver on at the moment, but I'm showing you visually. I can just spin it around. I can scroll. The Series 3 was pretty good, but there was a little bit of lag, especially if you had VoiceOver on. Maybe you toggled VoiceOver on or off if you were low vision like I would, or maybe you tried to go into an app and then it would stutter for a little bit. I gotta say, the Series 4, it's just a way smoother experience. You got the larger screen, there's a faster processor in here. It just seems to run a lot smoother. This is kind of what I wanted the overall experience to be. I can hit my other button. There's my dock. I have a whole bunch of apps open. But let's have fun. I'm gonna turn VoiceOver on.
VoiceOver on, 4:34 p.m.
Look at how quickly that turns on. Oh, sorry about that. My kind of finger was in the way there. I was wondering why we were so blurry.
Notification center. No notification.
So, if you have a Apple Watch, an earlier version, notice how much more quickly
Activity.
this responds.
Alarms. Apple Store. Audible. Breathe. Calendar. Camera. Dark sky. Find friend. Flick type. Find friend. Dark camera. Dark. Find friends. Flick type.
Yep, there is a beta right now of Flick Type. Spoiler alert, but I'm still kind of figuring out a couple things with it, but it actually does work, and it's kind of cool. You have a keyboard on the watch.
Heart rate. Home. Just press mail.
Just press record.
Just press record.
That is another really nice voice recording app that you can use to sync record voice memos or voice recordings on your watch to your phone
Mail.
and record right on your phone.
Maps. Messages. Music. News. Overcast. Swipe up.
I've really fallen in love with, I did a review for Overcast earlier this year for the podcast apps, and they have a watch app now that I was just playing with it earlier today. You can copy and play podcasts right on your watch without needing to be connected to your phone. That's a really nice feature. Oh man. Okay, hold on. See, that's the problem with the watch is you don't touch anything for any length of time. It goes to sleep. But yeah, Overcast. And what I will say with any audio, be it Overcast or another app I'm going to mention shortly, you still have to have, despite having a better speaker and a clearer speaker, you still have to have Bluetooth headphones in order to use any form of audio. You can do voiceover, but you cannot do like listening to any music or audio files or anything like that. So I use my AfterShokz titaniums with them. They work great. Love it. Now I got to turn voiceover off
Voiceover off.
because you don't get to hear my pin. Now I'll turn it on.
Voiceover on. 4:37.
So I'm going to hit my recent apps. I'm going to go to my dock.
Dock. Voice Dream Reader.
Check that out.
Custom action. Voice Dream Reader.
Voice Dream Reader. Yes, I'm playing with the beta of that right now.
Overcast.
He was asking for beta testers a little while. I think the full version is probably going to come out here shortly.
Tap to activate. Overcast. Voice Dream Reader.
And yes, Voice Dream Reader is
Then double tap to activate.
very, very cool. Maybe I'll talk about that in just a little bit.
Overcast.
There's my Overcast
Settings.
settings, activity.
Swipe. Audible.
There's my, yes, an Audible. I can copy books to my watch and listen to audiobooks with no connection.
All apps. Button. Audible.
So we're starting to get some of the, we're not able to stream like on cellular.
Then double tap to activate.
Like I would love to be able to stream Google Music or even Amazon Music because I have a good collection there.
Overcast. Settings.
So I'm curious if that stuff is going to pick up more in 2019. But
Voice Dream Reader.
overall, like I said, it works super well.
4:30. Watch face.
And if I
4:38 p.m.
I'll go to my dock,
Control center. 3 of 3 Wi-Fi. Cellular data. Wi-Fi. Airplane mode. 63% ping iPhone. 63% battery power. Button.
I mean, look at how, it responds so nicely.
4:38 p.m.
That's what I really want to get across. The main reasons I wanted to upgrade, a low vision user, I like the edge-to-edge screen. I liked how clear it was. Let me,
4:38 p.m.
hold on. Open photos. Now, I may not have,
Loading.
okay.
Photo grid with 21 photos at 1x. Photo grid with 21 photos at 4x. Live photo. Image.
I'm going to turn voiceover off just so I can swipe through these. But there's some concert photos. There's there's my parents. I'll show you some of my parents' kitties. So there's, that's Tiny. That is Baby. That is Pirate. Yes, they have a lot of cats. Oh, there's a coworker. That's funny. I love that he's got his guide dog, but he kind of covered his whole face and stuff because it's the wintertime. It was just a funny joke there. But see, I think this is from, what concert was that from? I think that might have been Guns N' Roses. I mean, look at how fast I'm just able to zip through these. Oh, there's another kid. There's Tiny. There's more kitties. There you go. But I mean, yeah, it looks really good. Oh, that is a little Hellion cat. I'm kind of curious to see how she's going to be later when I go home this year. I forget the cat's name. Princess. She's a young little kitty, and she's just a little troublemaker. But, yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, it looks, let me just bring it up close. that looks really good, you know? So the responsive, like I said, the responsiveness is good. There's a picture. Yeah, that was kind of a little blurry, but that's the photo, not the watch. I like my Pirate. He's cool. Pirate is cool, kitty. There you go. So that's the photos. And like I said, everything is just super responsive. I can just go like that, lock it up. I mean, there's really not a lot else to say about the Apple Watch, the way I've used it anyway, but I love the fact that we're getting more apps coming back to it. We're getting audio files to play back. I can do photos. Audible, Voice Dream is going to be coming for everybody really soon. But the health features are really cool because now it tracks more heart problems. Before the Series 3 would track high heart rates. Now you can track if your heart rate dips below a certain heartbeat as well, and arrhythmias and stuff like that. Now they don't have it activated yet, but you're supposed to be able to have it on your wrist and then touch the face of the crown here, and you're supposed to be able to, through I think the heart rate app, to be able to do like an EKG or ECG measurement on the watch. So there's a lot of potential there. The other thing that's kind of cool is you can turn on a feature to detect falls. So let's say you got somebody who's older and you want to have like a monitoring device, those proprietary devices that monitor people are really expensive, and you probably got to pay for a subscription or something. Granted, they probably will have to have an iPhone in addition to the watch because, of course, you can't do everything solo on the watch right now. Which is something that especially with all this health stuff coming out, they really ought to have some sort of a standalone, like a standalone service. Maybe it's not even the full service, but like, let's say if you were a senior and you didn't want anything to be too complicated, but you could pay a minimal data fee or something. You didn't have to pair it to a phone. You should be able to do everything in the, the settings and stuff through the OS, Watch OS, on the watch itself. But then they could use it as a, you could monitor your heart. You could monitor your falls, your EKG, ECG. They were talking about at one time, maybe in the future, putting like glucose sensors into it. So there's all kind of interesting potential there. And like for me, even the fall stuff, especially during the winter time, you live up in the cold white north like we do. It's pretty dang chilly today. And, we're going to have snow pretty soon and ice. So, supposedly if you fall and bite it, and it can detect that. And if you don't move, because the way it works is if you fall and you don't move for like a minute, it'll contact your emergency services, and then you're basically your primary contact of like your emergency contact. So like your spouse or a relative or whatever. So the health features are really intriguing with this new version. The other major new feature that I've played with a little bit is walkie-talkie. I have used that with a coworker. It works. Basically, you can double tap, your voiceover, you just double tap and go, okay, I'm going to talk, blah, 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 blah. You let go, or you double tap again, and it sends it right away, and then they hear it, and then you just talk back and forth. Now, the only thing I don't like about that is you add somebody, you add people, but once you do, the problem is that once you add somebody, and if you leave the walkie-talkie app basically live, anyone can just start a conversation at any time. Like, I could be just doing something. If I had my setting where it was passively set to receive, my friend could just be like, I could be in the middle of doing something, whatever, maybe in a meeting or something, and if he wanted to talk to me, I would just instantly, boom, get that message. I don't like that. I think the first the first time you receive a conversation instance, you should be asked if you want to chat at that time. Like you could have walkie-talkie passively ready, but don't just start blurting the first thing that somebody messages you. The first time, say, hey, you got a walkie-talkie message from Bob. Do you want to talk with him or not? You could just have a simple yes or no. And then if you said yes, then from that point on, he could just send you messages until, let's say, an arbitrary time. Maybe if you didn't talk for 2-3 minutes or something, then you would have to manually initiate a yes or no again if you were conversing. But so if I have people in my contacts, or if I have them in my walkie-talkie app, I on my end have to make sure to turn, I forget what the setting is called, but basically I have to make sure that I turn the receive feature off, so that, basically going offline. Like if you're in a messaging or a chat program, you're essentially going offline so that they can't just barge into you like that. So it is a neat feature. I could see it being really helpful, especially if you are maybe in a business and you're just contacting, maybe you have a bunch of people that are just using the watches, and it's kind of like your walkie-talkies. You're just doing a bunch of work and need to be able to quickly, like on a store floor or on a retail store, you got all your employees and you need to, hey, go check out aisle 5 or whatever. Makes sense for that kind of a thing. But going a little bit long again here, but that is kind of the overall look at the Apple Watch Series 4. I have the latest Apple Watch, watchOS, 5.1.1 that was just literally released yesterday. The non-bricked version. Thankfully, I got the other update and it didn't brick my watch. But apparently that was happening to some people when they released it during the iPad event last week. And mine thankfully didn't, but some people's did. But they released a full watchOS 5.1.1 that should not brick your Apple Watch. So anyway, like I said, I think it's a really great watch. If you have never used an Apple Watch and you're looking at a smartwatch, you want an accessible smartwatch, you don't even have to get the cellular one. But even getting the entry-level, the entry-level aluminum, I think it might be, this is really the one that's going to be worth it. I mean, the Series 3 is still really good. So if you want to get something a little bit cheaper, I'm not going to give you exact prices just because I can't remember them all. Like, there's so many, that's with Apple now. There's so many different models and sizes and types and stuff. Just go look on their website or use the Apple Store app. Very easy to look it up that way. If you want something cheaper, the Series 3 is still an excellent value. But if you can, and if you're really wanting to get a smartwatch that's accessible, I really got to say the Series 4 is really pretty dang good. I really am liking it now that I got that initial Verizon thing under control. It's been working great. And like I said, having Audible, Voice Dream Reader, the podcasts, Overcast, we're hearing about more apps. Spotify is supposed to be coming to the watch. I don't use that, but I just saw a couple articles about it the other day. So, developers are maybe going to start supporting this more again. I know it was they're backing off for a little while there last year, but hopefully, especially as cellular gets better and, Apple's opening up the APIs more, hopefully more watches or more watch apps will come, and this thing will really live up to its potential. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79 or mixer.com/BGFH. And until next time, I will chat with you guys again later.
Stop recording video.